Breaking news. Stay in the compound. Verbal fireworks erupt over NRM-DP coalition boundaries. The political atmosphere in Uganda has taken a sharp, metaphorical turn toward the domestic after a stinging exchange between Speaker of Parliament Anita and Justice Minister Norbert. What started as a discussion on inter-party cooperation has devolved into a public spat over who truly belongs in the bedroom of power. The spark amongst bedroom policy. Speaking at the National Leadership Institute, NALI, in Chankwazi, Speaker Anita issued a stern warning regarding the limits of political partnerships. Using a vivid household metaphor, she cautioned opposition members, specifically those cooperating with the ruling NRM, not to go too comfortable. We do cooperate with different political parties, but the cooperation does not mean that if we are cooperating, you come up to my bedroom. Okay, you remain in the compound. You don't come up to the bedroom.
We do cooperate with different political parties, but the cooperation does not mean that if we are cooperating, you come up to my bedroom. Okay? You remain in the compound. You don't come up to the bedroom. And I am saying, you don't come to the bedroom. The bedroom this time around is the speakership. You cannot cooperate to the tune of the speakership. So in that case,
Among emphasized that certain secrets remain exclusive to the NRM, even suggesting that cooperating members should stick to their own party uniforms rather than trying to blend in entirely with the presidency. The Clapback Mao defense is seated at the table. It didn't take long for Norbert Mao, the DP President General, who famously signed the cooperation agreement with President Museveni, to fire back on X, formerly Twitter. Mao didn't just disagree, he questioned the speaker's manners and outstanding within the political family tree. The highlights of Mao's retort on manners, he labeled the comments bad politics and bad manners. The power dynamic, Mao reminded the speaker that the only head of the family, President Museveni, decides who enters which room. The adopted child job in a pointed difference it amongst on recent transition from FDC to NRM. Mao stated that President doesn't need lectures from a recently adopted child. Now, why it matters? This friction highlights the growing pains of Uganda's cooperation agreements, while among is signaling a members-only gatekeeping approach to NRM inner circles. Mao is asserting his direct line to the president, effectively telling the speaker she isn't the one holding the keys to the house. As the 2026 has already gone, the question still remains, is the compound getting too crowded, or is the ballroom door directly locked? The political arena has turned into a digital battlefield following the sharp exchange between Speaker Anita and Minister Norbert Mao, sparking a wave of colorful and polarized reactions across social media. Ansa Batoro kicked off the support for Mao by declaring they would slaughter my dad to celebrate Mao's potential success as the next speaker, wishing for Mao's removal from our position. That Sobwame echoed this sentiment using multiple face with tears of joy emojis to state that only the head of the family has the right to grant bedroom access, followed by direct endorsement for Norbert Mao for speakership. Anthony Mugabire joined in by telling Mao to cook my leader, while Short Cool Boss celebrated the response with a bomb emoji, calling it the bomb they had been waiting for. The household metaphors used by the politicians were picked up and dissected by the public. Bugata 24 used several faces with tears of joy emojis and a push for him to note that a visitor should be accorded respect, mocking the idea of an adopted child insulting the father. Lawyer UG Lawyer found it amusing that a first-time visitor would call the first daughter bad-mannered, adding the raising hands emoji for emphasis. Conversely, Mubiru Smith took a different stance, using face with tears of joy emojis to blame the visitor for entering a home with bad-mannered children and telling Mao to go back home. Muzee Wasarike Samuel joked that the neighbors are simply busy peeping while the adopted child and visitors fight it out. Skepticism remains high among those who view the spot as a distraction. Nyanja Dorian Umtose questioned if the stepfather, the president, had actually instructed the speaker to make those comments. Omar Mayanja warned that both politicians are merely baits for Jaja and that the power dynamic remains unchanged. Patrick Ayebuzuma expressed disappointment that Mao still views the presidency as the sole provider of political positions, while Ivan Henry Kali pointedly asked if this public bickering was what Mao meant by national reconciliation. The entertainment value of the feud was not lost on the audience. Kenan Olia termed the exchange a KO in boxing terms. Kenya highlighted the shocked face of Robina Nabanja during the event, using the raising hands and a face with tears of joy emojis. Here, Ibrahim Kuzi cousin noted in Uganda that the landlord's house is getting interesting and called for popcorn, while Dan Ayebare asked for the Kasuku video regarding political violence, punctuating the request with a face with tears of joy emoji. Finally, Clave Boniface noted with face with tears of joy emojis that Mao couldn't let it lie, proving that the bedroom is indeed a sacred place in this ongoing political drama.